most thought-provoking hour of the day, dropping jewels and nuggets for the next 60 minutes. For us, by us. You're listening to the Hold Your Point podcast.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, peace to the planet. This is the Hold Your Point podcast. We are the Hold Your Point podcast crew. And you know, on our platform, we talk about Black culture and experience through a Christian millennial lens. And man, we got the usual suspects on for the night, man, for another tantalizing Thursday, another thought-provoking hour. My name is Fortunato. We got Levi Strauss, Michael Joseph, DTH, and DJ in the building. What's going on, fellas?
Hey, what's
Peace
happening?
be the journey. What's up, y'all?
Man.
What's up?
True.
Yeah, man. Happy birthday, my youth.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that, man. Happy birthday, DTH, too. Another Virgo brother in the house.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love to be around the sun for the both of
I
y'all,
don't
man.
know. I can't believe I said, I don't know about that. But I appreciate it. Same to you, brother.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Y'all boys making another trip. Y'all boys, I don't know, getting old.
Man.
Very, very blunt.
What they say? 30s and new 20s or 40s? What direction? Whatever.
Oh, no.
No, they ain't in their
Direction.
20s no more, man.
Hey, whatever direction they choose on going. Yo.
Yeah, for
30s
real,
and 20.
man.
That's what you meant to say. But yeah, man. So for today's edition of Have You Heard? Right now, Bank of America is actually in the news. They're on record for saying that they will allow first-time home buyers zero down on a home with no closing costs. Right?
Zero.
I mean, no down payment, nothing. Right? But apparently, the kicker, which I didn't even realize this when I first seen this article, you have to be in Black and Hispanic zones, Black and Hispanic areas. When I read it, I thought it was pretty odd. Like, you know, out of all the races on this beautiful big planet, you know what I'm saying? Why these two specific neighborhoods, right? These two specific zones. What's y'all thoughts? Y'all talk to me.
I mean, I think it's kind of good, too, because, like, they also offering it where it's like they're not basing it on people's credit score. And so they're using, like, other factors which, you know, should have already been used to determine, like, rental history, you know, to kind of determine the loan. So I think it's good because just given the history with redlining and the fact that, like, you know, minorities have kind of just been facing the struggle with being able to purchase in their own neighborhoods for years. And now, like, you know, there's one bank now that's making a stand and make it a little bit easier for those to be able to purchase back the block, so to speak, in their own areas. I think it's kind of good.
Okay. Well, that's a good take. Go ahead, D.
Yeah, when you put it that way, that makes sense. It did kind of shock me a little, like that they only wanted them to be in these specific neighborhoods. I figure if you want to help somebody out, help them out. Why does it got to be in these very specific neighborhoods? But I mean, you know, when you put it that way, I guess they understand certain groups of people will congregate in certain areas. That's just kind of the nature of culture. People, you know, commune around people that like them. So for them to be able to purchase and own property where they live is a great thing. So I guess it's kind of cool.
Now,
Yeah.
But do you think there's a reason why they're doing it though? Like, why all of a sudden? Because you think about it, is is it a buyer's market or a seller's market right now?
well, I'm gonna tell you this, Mike, man. This is also kind of in agreement with what I always say, man. It's just like the worst place to be is stuck in the middle, bro. Like when you are a lower class of people, you get a ton of assistance, man. Like I
What?
remember like they was giving out free Wi-Fi, free internet to those that's in a lower class. You know what I'm saying? Not making a
They still
specific
doing
income.
that.
They're still doing that. I mean, bro, literally like free internet for 2 years. I think it was lasted. I think they called it the Affordable Connectivity Program. It was some kind of program that Biden signed off on,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So you know, it's in agreement with what I said before, man. Being in that middle class is just such a tough place to be. Because when I first read it, I'm thinking like, oh, okay, cool, like, yo, like first time home buyer, all right, bet, bet, bet. But nah, that's not the case, man. It is so. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's the reason why, man.
yeah. When I first saw it, I mean, I thought it sounded good, but then I'm always a little bit wary when they kind of specifically target certain groups especially when it comes to minorities. I think Mike hit it on the nail head when he kind of asked the question like why exactly, like why now. I get the whole history behind redlining and what's been done to people in the past, but it's like everybody's out to make a buck for themselves, like I'm
Hmm.
not, people like you could say, the bank is trying to help people, but it's hard for me to say that comes with a true intent, true genuine like good intention. Like I have to read the fine print. As I said, I got to see exactly what they're asking you to put in, what they want me to do, like, because when you start targeting certain groups, it gets dicey.
Well, I mean, real
Here you
quick.
have it, ladies and gentlemen, that black people are never satisfied. They mad when
Nah,
they
nah,
don't
nah.
have, and they mad when you start giving to them.
Look, you got to be careful, man. Not everybody's out to just help you.
That's
people
another
just
good
people
No,
not
point.
just out to help you.
That's
Like
a
no,
good point.
no.
I think, I think,
there's no such
I,
thing as free lunch. Like
No, I was gonna say like no, they're definitely they have to help because let's keep it 100, man. I think this is probably helping those like I said that are lower class, right? Those that are in specific income,
so,
right?
are they saying African
Tax bracket.
Americans and Asian are lower class? That's the
Hispanics, not Asian.
just well, yeah.
But I
Latinos.
I don't know the way that it's sounding right because now it's saying like you have to be in a specific community and like the area that I'm in now it's like we I consider it like a black community but it's not like the hood or whatever but I'm pretty sure my zip code won't come in their database their search right so I'm just talking from a background because I've because literally I was in sales and I was kind of I did like the free internet thing and it was literally only in the hood that this particular program was offered. So like it just reminding me like okay this is probably what's going on here, man. So that's my take on it.
All right, so there you have it, man. We got a little bit about what's going on in the news right now with Bank of America trying to do some good things. Hopefully, it's all in good nature. I mean, it's a season of inflation too, so maybe they're being proactive with what they want to do before the market pops. But it kind of ties into what we want to talk about a little bit this evening. It's just debt and where debt's place has in a Christian's life or shouldn't have in a Christian's life. And there's a lot of different aspects that we can kind of cover along those lines with, and just kind of following up with what we kind of touched on last week. Just with a little bit of finances. So, right off the bat, I wanted to ask y'all real quick, man. First of all, there's a verse. Why do y'all think there's a verse that asks God to forgive us for our debts? It's a part of the Lord's Prayer where it says, to forgive us of our forgive us
Yes,
of
as
our
we do
debts as
our
we forgive
debtors.
us. Right, correct.
As yeah, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Well, I think it's important because it highlights that debt is something that's going to occur, that we're going to have in this life, right? So now this can take different forms, and obviously we're talking more of a financial aspect tonight, but um, we're indebted to God, obviously, to Christ for His sacrifice that He made for us, and so we're forever indebted to Him for that. Um, but at the same time, we will. interact with other people on earth and do business and transactions to where there may be occasions where someone might be indebted to us. But I think that example that he gave of forgiving us our debts, he also wants us to show that to other people. So I don't know that that necessarily means, people don't ever have to pay you back or anything like that. But I think it's the type of principle that should guide your thought process when dealing with other people and when you're dealing with, business transactions, where you may not necessarily be so scrupulous with collecting on your debt because
Yeah.
Christ forgave you of yours. So you should, so to speak, forgive people of theirs.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because let's keep it real, man. There's some people that literally died over some money that they owe someone else, right? Because like how we was touching on it last week, money is the root of all evil, right? So,
No, not right.
Not money is the root of all evil.
The love of money.
The
oh,
love of money.
okay, forgive me, congregation, forgive me. You're absolutely right. Matter of fact, absolutely right. Um, but yeah, no. So I mean, the love of having the money, and if somebody owe you that money, and then especially if you're a person of pride and you person, because especially this is like street rules to it, right? You know what I'm saying? It's not just the money. It's that he disrespected me. He knew he should have paid me. So it's a
It's a
guy
principle.
just like DTH was saying. Like it's another way of just like being forgiving, right? Just realizing like, hey, my man probably fell on some hard times, right? Forgive him, for he know not what he done. So
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good way to say it. Nah, I think you kind of hit it there when you said like the love of money is the root of the evil. Because it's like, um, when you think about it, if you see somebody in a tough situation and you see, you see that we see what they're going through, but you know that they owe you something, blah blah blah, or whatever is going on in that situation. You're supposed to love that person more than you love the money that they owe you. So you're supposed to be able to like show them that, um, you know, I care about you more than this money. Even though money is important, and like we say, we have to pay our
yeah,
debt.
yeah,
Debt is important to be paid. The way how I see debt. Y'all already know where I'm gonna go with this. Debt is an imbalance, man. Like when you're in debt, you're not in balance with what's going on, in your life. You owe somebody something. If you look at your balance sheet, and if
like
you're in debt, you have more liabilities than your assets. That's what
like
that means.
like the U.S. right in our budget
Well, hey, hey, but the
deficit.
do- but the
Let's print
dollar
more
keep
money.
but the dollar keep going up. I don't understand. But so
Inflation.
yeah, man. Yeah, but you're right. No, it's
So,
just no. Go ahead.
well, I mean, so I wanted to ask y'all too because I think like the points that we referenced so far is just like person to person or individually, but like if we're talking about like Christians and having like just like you were saying, Levi, like just debt to a system or institution, whether it's like a bank or credit cards or whatever it is, just loans or finances. Like, do y'all think like dying in debt can be a detriment to salvation? Because I mean, if part of that scripture is saying
Question.
to forgive us of our debts, right? And we make no like real change to like balance, I guess, our debts before like our time is up. Do you think that can be a detriment possibly to our salvation?
That's an interesting question.
nah. I mean, I
It,
don't I
I can
don't
think
think
it.
so. Oh, you was gonna get in there.
No, I,
Okay,
I I think it depends on your heart and journey. That's the journey you took in the heart.
yeah. I
I
was
mean,
gonna say like I don't
Chris.
think so. Like essentially, your time was done. So I guess I can see where Mike was going. It's like you probably had intentions of paying this loan off, right?
I
But
got you, bro.
you just ain't get around to doing it yet. You know what
Check me
I'm saying?
next week.
But yet you
Like
I
have, but
like
yet,
that.
yet,
I like
but
that.
yet,
you see
yet
the
you
thing?
have this and that and this and that. I
You
mean,
got
I'm
to
just.
catch me on the next pay period, but then death caught you first. See, that's what happened. But
Yeah, give me about 2 weeks.
nah.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
well, that's the thing. That's the thing though, because like if it's a dispute with somebody and you owe them like $5,000, and like like y'all didn't solve that, and like you pass away or the other person passed away, like
But you
that's
didn't know
still
you was
like an
going
open.
past. You
Yeah,
Yeah,
didn't
you
but
know
didn't
you was
know.
going past though, unless you.
it's unresolved. Like it's not
That's
settled.
a good
Like
question.
even though like it's not like you have ill will to someone, right? But like you still indebted. Like this person still had it over your head. Like you still felt some type of way about like coming around because you think they're gonna ask you about the money or something
I think
like.
I think you might be running
Is that
into a salvation.
barbershop?
Oh, I think it is. I think you might be running into a salvation issue if you pass away and like you never wanted to pay them. Like maybe that
Yeah,
might be something that might be like God might not look too kindly on that. Like you passed away, but hey, you was never gonna pay them. You was never gonna pay them. You just took the money and you just took
Yeah.
whatever they gave you, and you
Yeah.
just had you. Oh, and even made it worse. Like maybe you like, yeah, I got you, and you just maybe kept telling them that.
And you
That's
lied
not.
about it.
That's
Because
probably
the
a lie.
thing,
Exactly, that's a lie. True.
right? Because
it's the worst. It's the worst when you envy them because they coming up. You got a little $20 in your pocket and they getting double what you get. Like, oh, you don't need this 20. 20 ain't nothing to you.
that happens a lot, man.
Yeah,
Sometimes
it
people
does.
look at you and they're like, "Oh, he fine. He don't
I
remember
know,
my
right?
debt. He'll be all right."
Yeah,
But you know what though? There's a verse, right? Psalm 37:21. It says, "The wicked borrow and do not repay, but the righteous give
Mm.
generously." So it's actually
See,
a biblical principle that like
Hmm.
you should endeavor to settle your debts. It's not something you really should just kind of
Yeah.
let go and think it's all good, right? So that there is a reason why. And the thing is too, debt really is slavery. If you're indebted to someone, you're actually enslaved to them. I think there's another verse that talks about that too. Proverbs 22:7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower
hmm
is slave to the lender.
Yep.
And that's literally what it is. So even when you think about
yep.
how Christ died for us, we're slaves to Christ, right? The Bible does say that. Now we know slaves not in a as if we're being oppressed, right? But meaning ownership, right?
So
Christ is the owner of our lives because of what
And
he's done for us. So
and then
hold on,
even
fortune. Hold on, fortune. Before you go, so should a person not try to seek out debt, such as trying to get a home loan, a car loan, because you don't want to be a slave, right? You don't want to be a slave. So it's like, all right, because look, I know there's one cat in particular. I don't need to call his name or whatever, but he literally won't get any kind of debt. Like his house, he said he saved for, he's saving for years. Well, he's been saving for years so he can pay off his house cash. He said no debt at all. But the thing is, like, debt is kind of like what they say, other people's money, right? So that's kind of like the the way to go now, right? Is why would you want to use your own money when you can use someone else's money,
why
right?
spend
That's
mine
kind of
but
when I can
yeah,
spend
I
yours?
mean, but I mean, even to David's point though, like that verse, like it's even true today, like because you know what I'm saying, like you are a slave to the lender, like because if you go and get like a lot of people do go and get these car payments that they can barely afford to say that they driving a later model, like now you enslaved to this lender who gave you this car loan with this high interest rate, and if you ain't making these payments, they're gonna come and take your car away versus like having a car that you could have paid in full and something that would have granted you financial freedom where if you miss work or you're sick or whatever, you're not jeopardizing your transportation.
yeah,
That's the word, freedom. Because when you are a slave, you are not free. And so by putting yourself in a position where you have to pay somebody back, you are not free. And so,
yeah,
um, I mean, now the way things are as far as like debt financing and things like that, I mean, I think sometimes it can be necessary. There might be certain instances where you do it, but I think it's just about like the mindset you kind of approach to it, as far as whether or not you intend to pay somebody back or you think you just maybe going to get
yeah,
off somehow.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I was like, I don't think there's an issue with those things, only because like with those things, you sign a contract, like you actually make an agreement that you're gonna pay them back, even if you like maybe you want to say in your heart that you're not going to, but they're going to come after you with that contract. They're going to come after you if you decide to not start to pay them back, for whatever reason. Um, but so yeah, so you sign the dotted line that says, hey, I'm going to pay you back over this amount of time, over this amount of periods, over this amount of pay stuff. So I mean, there is an intent to pay back, so I don't see an issue with that stuff. Now, if there was no intent, like where we've been going, that's where the problem comes in. You just say, yeah, I'm gonna pay you back, but there's no real movement to pay
I
back. Like,
mean, oh,
what you
I
got,
guess
man?
the verse is black and white. I mean, it says that you wicked if you borrow and you don't pay back. There's no like room for intent.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're making an agreement though. Like, I mean, if yeah, if you start to not pay back, then yeah, you really didn't mean to pay back. So signing
Because
didn't mean anything. Signing didn't mean
if
anything.
somebody
Just
borrow like 10 grand from you today, and like, yeah, Levi, I promise you, I'm gonna pay you back. And like every time they see you, like, bro, like, I'm still struggling. Just like how like not for nothing with like Sally Mae and those loan deferments. Like in order to
Hmm,
get a loan deferment, you have to continuously say like I'm
I'm gonna pay you
struggling
back.
or I'm not making the money right now, and then they just
How you know
defer your
about that?
loans for like I done did it a couple, and then it's like
That COVID
so it's
relief.
just yeah because I mean
So
even
you
that like that's
disobeying the
another
verse, the very verse.
well, that's what I was gonna say. That's another thing because it's like these people who get like these high like amounts of student loans, or they take like these college
Mm.
amounts out, and they working to pay them back, and it's like they don't like what I'm saying, like finish it off. Like how scrupulous is that verse? Like
Yeah.
so. But anyway,
Uh,
I wanted to ask y'all too. Like, do y'all think Christians that lack financial freedom may be out of alignment with the principles of money according to the Bible?
Certainly, certainly, not necessarily in every case, but I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with, their what they were blessed with from young. Like, if the parents didn't have a whole lot, it's probably going to be difficult for them to have a really good start in life, accumulating wealth. Not all the time is somebody born broke and they stay broke. There's plenty of examples of people who are industrious and find a way to come up out of that. But there's definitely people who are behind the eight ball on that, and we can't
yeah.
can't deny that. You know what I mean? So for some people, it's a matter of the circumstances they're in. But I would say though, like tremendous debt is probably indicative of somebody who does not have good financial management, right? Because it's one thing to be struggling a little bit or kind of what's the word, paycheck to paycheck, I guess, but you're still able to pay your bills. You just may not be able to go fly to Greece
Check
every
to check.
weekend or
Yeah.
something like that. But it's a different thing when you're continually on government assistance and stuff like that because of whatever. That might be a sign that you're probably not following biblical principles of money usage.
Yeah. I,
They say wealth. My bad, DJ. They say wealth attracts, you know, certain type of people, or money attracts certain type of people. Like if you're always in a sense where you're searching for it and you're always looking for it, then you're gonna be forever chasing it. And just to answer the question, like to are we born into it? It's more so like DTA said. It's like how your money management is at the end of the day. Because as you said, you got fathers that lived in poverty their whole lives, and their children end up building an empire. It's all about the mindset.
yeah. I mean, I'll say, yeah, y'all already know what I'm gonna say. Yes, you're going against the rules of. I'm gonna phrase it the way you say it. I go against the rules, the biblical rules in the Bible, 100%. Because I have a story of when I was operating my business, and there was a guy out there. He was a helper or whatever, and he's telling me like, yeah, I came out here to try to make a few extra bucks. And at that time, I was like, man, I can really use some help. I'm like, so tell me, about your work history. And he's telling me how he he's able to do this and do that and do this and do that. Like he do tree trimming and all this stuff. And I was like, man, why don't you just like go ahead and just start your own business? He was like, yeah, I thought about it, but he just said whatever. And I was just thinking like, man, you got the skills and the abilities based on what you're telling me in my mind. I'm just thinking out, thinking in my mind. I'm just like, why are you just here just trying to make like $50 a day? I'm like, dude, you can literally just put out a little ad on Craigslist. But the thing is, like, people are lazy. Certain people are just lazy, man.
Yeah.
And like everything that you need is right in here. Like all you got to do is just look within and dig deep, right? And so, of course, naturally, not everybody is, blessed to be in a, a good home, like D was saying. Perhaps you're born in poverty, but everything is still right there. And the people that you keep around, man, they will also push you to go think past your small way of thinking, right? So that's why it's also very important that you're in a good community, right? That you pick good friends, right? You have mentors that you can learn some things from. So, and it's not easy, but everyone has the ability to.
But and the reason why I said like financial freedom, because I think like the term rich and wealthy are subjective, because you know what I'm saying, like it's like there's no real like way to define like where one ends and where the other begins. Like it's all really based on like perspective. But like with financial freedom, like I think like that's attainable regardless of like how much you make annually, because it's all about like living within your means
Right.
and making sure like you're not like doing like you're not living to a point of where you're like suffering or like you're having to what I'm saying, like do too
Yeah,
much to make the ends meet.
yeah.
And
You don't
I
need a
I
lot of
think
money to be financially free. It's about what
Right.
you spend out. Yeah, I hear
Yeah.
you.
but a lot of times what we see though like in the churches is like people who like are crying about finances and not having, or they can't give. Like you see churches that like struggle financially, and in our denomination, but they can't even purchase buildings because their congregation
Hmm.
can't give consistently.
Mm. Well, yeah,
That's
that's a lack of creativity, in my opinion, because I always just find it so amazing, like how you have some people, I'm just gonna say, let's just say some of these Latin countries, like don't know the language, don't, what I'm saying, a total foreigner, and within some years, boom, I mean, literally know how to speak the language, and income has surpassed someone who's been here for, what I'm saying, 20, 30, 40 years. I always just find it so interesting, like, but it's just that desire to want it. It's so crazy, like, these people fight to get to this country, man. Like, I may have shared this story on a podcast before, but man, I'll never forget this little kid. He was like 10 or maybe 8 years old, I don't remember. I was in Colombia at the time, and we was on the beach, and he was, what I'm saying, going around selling whatever. I don't know what he was selling. And he went to this couple that was next to us, and he was trying, what I'm saying, trying to make some money for the family. And I guess the man talked to him rough. And then I just see the little kid, I just seen him crying. I was like, man, what they say to my man? He's just trying to make some money. Um, but then I was like, all right, the kid probably, what I'm saying, he probably went to mama, and what I'm saying, mama's probably consoling him right now. Everything's cool. Um, but 10 minutes later, I see the same kid over on the other side still selling. I was like, bruh, like at 8 years old, what kid is gonna, start crying and but continue to push on and continue to sell? But that's just kind of like the mindset that a lot of people that's in these, I guess, uh lower income communities is like, and they have this creativity, like it's either I'm gonna make it or I'm gonna make it. Like there's no plan B. I
right.
have to sell this. I have to help my family out. So I don't know, man. I think it's just a matter of not being lazy and just wanting better for yourself.
Is that, and not having a safety net. When you know that if I'm not able to get a
Yes.
job, the government gonna give me unemployment
Hmm.
and I'll be able to get by. It's a lot easier to not have to work.
Yes,
That's
sir.
exactly what a lot of Republicans are against these
Yes.
programs because they think it
Yes.
disincentivizes people to actually go out and look for work.
Yes.
So in these other places, like you mentioned that example, there ain't no safety net for him if he
Yeah.
don't get by. He got to
Yeah.
get by, or he's probably
Yeah.
going to die, right? So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
is that is the motivation to want more? But I think too is certain people. I think Fortunato said this a little while ago, kind of living within your means, right? Like you don't have to be a billionaire to be financially free, right?
Nope.
You have to live within your means and be able to handle your expenses. That's really it. But I think a lot of people try to, and that goes again to the time that we're in now with social media and being able to see the glitz and the glam of everybody else and what they're doing, wanting those things. And that's the thing, it's the desire. These people, the love of money is the root of evil. It's going to be hard for you to really be close to God when all you keep thinking about is how do I get a Benz or a Beamer or a Bentley. So,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
Exactly.
I was just about to chop in here. Like, I think most people's idea of financial freedom is completely misconstrued. They think the financial freedom is them going on yachts and going to different countries and buying bags and blah 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 blah
And it
blah.
is.
I mean, it's I'm not saying you can't enjoy these things, but that's not necessarily what it would mean. It simply means that you're not letting yourself be a slave, as we said, to whoever you might owe money to. Because
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it. There's a psychological aspect to when you owe somebody money. Like you may not speak up against them if some say something. You may be a little more apt to acquiesce to what they have going on because you owe them
You're
money.
gonna take a little bass out of your voice when you come
There you
around them.
go. There you go. You know what I'm saying? And that could compromise your walk with God if you think about it. So
that's actually a really good point. That's a very good point because if
Yeah.
you want to be in their good graces, so you may let certain things slide when it comes to
absolutely.
truth or whatever it is. So yeah, that's a good point.
So now, so there's a proverb that says like we should diversify our income, and for a lack of better words, I'm kind of summarizing it. But like, why do you think like financial literacy, according to the Bible, isn't taught more in churches? Because like, I mean, we like for real. I mean, there's like a clear deficit with like like with how our church functions financially in versus like other denominations. Because like I was looking in some of these denominations, like when there's a church that wants to like build or like purchase a property or building, like they'll all have like they put money together, and so they can take this money out, access it, make sure as long as they have their plans, whatever, and they give this money to this church that's within their denomination to go ahead and build. So they're not having to go to the banks or nothing because they controlling their own money. But it's like within our denomination, like we see like these splinter groups that struggle
Hmm.
all the time, and
Hmm.
it's like clear proverbs. There's a lot of different principles in the Bible that talk about finances, but we don't really talk about like the principles or the teachings of the finances according to the Bible.
Do you think it's I'm gonna ask a question to based on do you think it's because of culture? I mean, I know DJ said earlier you have some people that come through from another country and work their behinds off to make it, but like, do you think it could be because of culture why we lack?
Don't get me
Mm.
started on the West Indian culture.
Well, and I'm
Uh,
saying that in a sense because like okay, so the culture we the West Indians like we go out we work hard for ourselves majority we bring in the money and the income, but others you have to go work for others to make money. So a lot of times it's like it's not like there's not a lot of self entrepreneurs out there. It's more so you're working for the man. So it's when you're limited on that, it's kind of hard. A lot of people feel like it's kind of hard to be able to even I'm saying it's the wrong mindset, but a lot of people feel like because you're working for the man, it's kind of hard for you to
yeah.
generate money like that.
I, I mean, I mean, I, I'm kind of gonna say the same thing I said before. Um, it's just, well, the togetherness is really important, but I guess that's just kind of human nature to not work together, which is unfortunate, man, because the togetherness of people can solve so many issues. I think it was well, I always said this too, but I think one of y'all shared the video was just like, yo, imagine if every, what I'm saying, black or Hispanic person, whatever, was to give $1, you know what I'm saying, to one another. Like, you'll be a millionaire, right? But people just, were fragmented. But I think financial freedom should be taught at least on a monthly basis, man, because like, of course, yeah, we want to make sure that our souls is right and we make it to heaven. But why wait until you get to heaven? Why don't you just have heaven on earth, right? That I feel like, why you want to wait to get the glory? Have some glory here, right? 'Cause we're gonna have some
Yeah,
hard times, right? Let's try to have some great times where we don't have to worry about work. Man, y'all getting me fired
and
up
then
because like
It's because of enviness, though.
I hate working for people like with a passion because I don't like getting to, again, I don't like being told what to do, man. But this is a passion of mine. Like, I really feel like those that love God, love Christ, or just love people in general, those people should find a way to win financially, right? Because just imagine the goodness that can be done on this earth if they were just free, if they just had their 24, their time.
Yeah, I think what Mike said kind of has some truth to it, honestly, about the culture. Because from my perspective, what I think I see is that speaking about money amongst the West Indian folks, our denomination, is it's almost as if it's taboo, to be honest. Unless we're trying to raise funds for a building or something, we don't really hear too much about money unless it's about the the potential evils of money, or pursuing money, and where that can lead,
That's
because
very true.
it's hard for
Yeah,
a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Like, you'll hear
very
that,
true.
but you won't
Yeah,
hear about the verse Fortunato said about dividing up your portion 7 to 8 times. It's Ecclesiastes 11 verse 2. I had looked it up, which is basically don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Like, that's a good um, biblical financial principle, but we don't hear about these things. And again, I think it's, for whatever reason, I think we attach the pursuit of money to a degradation of your spiritual ascension, or your spiritual connection to Christ. And
Hmm.
I think that's a big mistake, for
How
sure.
much you have? Yeah.
But I think because there's something to be said about poverty of spirit, and being contrite in your spirit. But I don't. It feels like they equate financial living, and how your station in life with that same type of broken spirit, contrite spirit, meaning you have to be living a very meager, um, basic lifestyle in order to be close to God, which I don't think is true. But again, I don't really see that with other people. So I'll probably have to agree. It's probably a cultural thing that they just believe those who have excess material wealth are not as close to God.
I mean,
Let
well,
me just add, my bad, Leo, real quick. Like, let me just add this in there. So I was talking to my friend, and he's Catholic, and he said, yeah, man, we're building a church, and we got this property. We should be done within about a year. I'm like, wow, it's crazy. A whole year, the building going up from straight land to a whole building, but it takes other denominations years before they even get out of a storefront. So he thought about it. I was like, why? I was like, why do you think about it? He's like, well, bro, like most of the people in the congregation, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're
I was just
attorneys,
gonna say that.
or
Yeah,
there's all this, and it's like, not to diss my West Indian cultures, but it's either you're a mechanic or you're a nurse or a
That's me and
doctor.
there.
You know what I'm saying? Or it's on that. So I think that has a lot to do with it. They're inputting their salary from their being a doctor, and you get what I'm saying, right?
That's
So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
true. I'm gonna let you go. I know you want to say, but I just want to add what Mike said real quick because I think you all know our denomination, Seventh Day and Seventh Day Adventists, were the same up until whatever 1800 something when they split. And I think from what I remember hearing about that is that the folks who were the Adventists at that time were the doctors and the lawyers, and they had the funds to build these churches and things. And the people who were the Seventh Day, they were the farmers and the people who really didn't have it like that. And that's kind of a reason why we're in the position we are now.
Interesting.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
I was gonna chime in there. It's a very interesting question, very interesting topic. I think even aside from culturally, I think Christian wise, there is some sort of aversion when it comes to like accumulating wealth and going into debt and all that stuff. And I think I encourage everyone to go check out Child of a King Living in Debt episode because we kind of touched on this where we talked about it's harder for a rich man to enter into the kingdom than a camel to go through the eye of a needle or something
Yeah.
like that. So there is some truth to rich people having less of a connection to God to answer your question, David. Like there is some correlation to that, but it's not. Don't get me started on the cultural stuff when it comes to wealth and all that stuff either, because I have a whole spiel I can go into when it comes to the West Indies being background West Indies myself. But yeah, I mean, there is some truth when it comes culturally. I think spiritual wise, there is some aversion to gaining wealth, but it is misguided. I want to say in a lot of sense. So like I will say
Yeah.
that like
It's
some
heavily
people,
misguided.
yeah, some people take that verse and they apply it in the not in the way that it's supposed to be done. But
Because I think like with the whole like with a lot of times with our culture and not just with our culture but just like we would see with just cultures in generally who's been kind of marginalized, I guess I should say, like it becomes taboo for the rooms that they weren't able to enter. So like for instance, like I don't know if y'all heard like, but there was even a point where like going and getting higher education was kind of considered like something for them not to do at some point in time.
That's true.
oh
So
Yeah.
it's like
yes,
that generation of people who followed that teaching and didn't get higher education now then brought a disadvantage to the church in our generation or the years to come because like the
wholeheartedly agree.
opportunities that they could have took advantage of they didn't because the people before them who didn't have the opportunity decided that this was taboo and we should never worry about this again. And it's the same thing with money. That because those opportunities weren't taken advantage of, those doors weren't open, and it's been like considered taboo until like many like our generation or the generation that comes before us like started like going into those levels of higher learning and starting to tapping into some real money and trying to change different things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just
Hey,
want to add. Oh my bad, Jay. No,
go ahead.
I just want to ask a question. No, first of all, I want to correct myself because not to say that there's people haven't made it as mechanics and nurses, and because there's a lot of people out there that have been able to come up with that. But my question is, do you think that we measure subconsciously? Do we measure our blessing measure our blessing on the amount of our bank flow or what's in our bank account?
I think definitely that happens.
Some people do. Yeah. A lot
Oh,
of people
my
do.
my bad. Well, say that again, Mike.
So, like, do you think people like do we subconsciously measure our how blessed we are by what our bank account looks like? Because I remember DTA said it says like you're living within your means, and what I'm saying if you don't feel like you have this and you don't have that, it's very hard to really look at the other side and look out the positive through it.
I mean, I, I'm gonna say this. I say yes, and the reason why I say yes is because of what you just said, like living within your means. Because if it's just about financial freedom and like you're not, you know what I'm saying, like you're not doing the most to like to impress people or live a life that you can't afford to live, then you're gonna have a little bit of extra left in your bank account that you're gonna be happy with. It's not probably gonna be $30,000, $100,000 or whatever, but I mean, you still gonna have something left over because I don't know. I mean, I just I figured I know like people are at different places in life as far as their spending and stuff goes. So like, but I'm saying like when you're making money and the money that you have to spend for whatever you have to spend it on, and then you have a portion of that left, like that's always a blessing,
Yeah,
regardless if that's in a small amount or on a large scale.
yeah, you definitely have less stress. You definitely have less stress when the money in your account can match the bills that you have, and then some. You know what I'm saying? You walk better, right? You're less stressed out because you have the means in which to live. So yeah, 100%. I will say yes, but I will also rebuttal. Like also, it's always a different story. Like okay, I'm saying like if you become rich, right? It's always a different story because I hear sometimes like maybe Jay-Z will say like, what I'm saying, you know, that's when signals got crossed when we got rich, right? So basically like we was happier when, what I'm saying, we didn't have anything. So I guess there's always different perspectives once you get to different places in life.
Now, on that, real quick too, like I wanted to ask y'all, like, because I think we right there, but do y'all think like there's a correlation with people who like give consistently, like in regards to tithing and offering, and then having them or having less financial stress versus someone who gives inconsistently and having like more financial problems and like just always having to depend on government assistance and not being able to kind of come up.
Yeah, you're not chasing the dollar. You're chasing faith.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think Mike just hit it on the head right there. Like, I mean, that comes down to, the love of money that we've been talking about. How much do you love God? How much do you love your faith? How much do you love Christ, versus how much do you love that green that's in your pocket? But
You're not too green-eyed.
Yeah, DJ.
I mean, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking if someone was to give freely, then they'll become more blessed.
Well, I'm saying like, is there a correlation between like giving consistently and tithe and offering and having less financial
Oh, I got
stress
you. Yeah.
versus like not giving consistently and seeing more financial issues happening in your life?
I mean, to keep it 100, I'm always trying to learn every day, right? And I would have said yes, but now I don't know, right? Because there's stories where people who don't give it all, but they follow the biblical rules that's in the Bible, right? Because there's some rules in the Bible in which how you can amass wealth, right? And unfortunately, those that don't have a good heart, that's why I said like those that do have a good heart should try to follow those financial principles that's in the Bible. But those that don't necessarily have a good heart, that doesn't really give like that, are winning. And you can find so many different stories of people that double cross people, stole from their grandma, different things, and are winning. So I don't want to say I can't say
But
yes on that.
It's a good point.
I mean, I think we gotta hold on. My bad. We gotta like,
Right.
we probably not gonna be able to do it now, but I don't think we can define that as a win because it's paper, bro. It's paper at the end of the day. Like the financial freedom, the freedom of the debt comes from God. Like the paper in itself, like demons getting paper in the music industry to push poison to kids all day long.
You trying to flip it though? You ain't asking. You kind of making it sound different now though.
yeah, but to your point, I think even if you do shady business like stealing all that, and you're not tithing, you may not think about that, but I feel like it's gonna affect you psychologically in another way. It's just how it's gotta work, because you can't. There's no way it's gonna be good good faith happening towards you if that's the way you're moving.
Yeah, I would just say I think there probably is a correlation, generally speaking. I think because when you give your tithe faithfully, you're able to see God move and make things happen for you. I think more than the person who's not doing that, because if you're consistent with that, God is going to recognize that and provide for you. You'll be able to see that. Whereas the person who's doing it intermittently, things may come up and they might have a different perspective because they've never been in that position where they had to give so much and then rent is due and they don't know how it's going to get done. But the person who's doing it consistently, I think they'll see more often than the other person that, God will make a way for them. And then the thing with that is they don't, their dependence is on God, not the money. That's the thing. When you tithe, you're telling God, I'm dependent on you, God, to provide for me, even though I'm giving you this 10th. When I could spend it on myself, I trust in you more than I trust in money.
Hey, isn't that's the Mosaic law though, right? And then we had a discussion about the tithe thing. And the thing is too, which I wanted to bring up when we was talking about the being in debt, it actually right before that scripture of giving your tithes, giving your 10th offering, there's a scripture right before that where it's saying you shouldn't charge interest to your brother that you do work for. So I wanted to bring that up, but perhaps on the next pod we can talk about that one. So,
all right, man. Well, there you have it, man. To be continued, indeed. This has been a little bit on our financial series, man. Debt and where its place is in the Christian household or the Christian life or the lack thereof. This has been another episode and another thought-provoking hour with the Hold Your Point podcast. We are the Hold Your Point podcast crew. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you find us at. And until next time, man, we are out of here.